Ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? Today we're talking about King Richard. I don't know if you've ever had someone made you feel like you're just not doing enough as a parent. You need to watch this. All right, so King Richard. This tells the story of Venus and Serena Williams. Although this story is kind of more so centered around their father, and more so Venus, as she was the first one to enter tournament play. I was absolutely blown away and inspired by this movie. For many reasons that I'm going to go into. So this deals with how their father Richard trained them in Compton, and how he did his best to push them, to keep them off the streets and give them a future, either in tennis or professionally somehow. But he was not going to let his children fail, which was very admirable, especially the climate, being surrounded by the gangs and everything in Compton, determined not to let his children fall victim to what was going on out there. He didn't let them use excuses, nothing. He was always there to protect them, and I found that to be amazing. I mean, you always have to be on your toes as a parent, and you want to be there for your children all the time. And sometimes you just tell yourself as a parent that some days you just physically can't do it. I mean, you don't stop being a parent, but some days are more lackadaisical. You want to lay around. Not this guy. This dude was 24/7 all about his kids. And I'm sitting there like, hold up. Maybe I shouldn't even be watching this movie. Maybe I should be going to do something with my son. Hey, come on in here, man. Let's you and Daddy do something. So, what I loved about this movie, first of all, this movie stars Will Smith as their father Richard, Demi Singleton as Serena, Sanaya Sidney as Venus, and Janawi. I feel like people are doing it to me on purpose at this point. I haven't run across a Steven or a Mark or a Jennifer or any of those names. It's always the hardest. Anana Janae Ellis. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Okay. And Tony Goldwyn as like his first coach. So what I loved about this movie, I want you to imagine someone who has absolutely nothing, not a dime to his name, and he finds a way to get his daughter the best help, the best equipment, and to always be humble, and has multiple jobs, him and his wife. I mean, just think about that. Think about how hard it would be all the time. And he pushed them like I've never seen anybody be pushed before. He wanted his daughters to succeed just that bad. And one of my favorite takeaways from this movie, there was a scene where his daughter, I don't know how much this is to be believed, but from what I'm getting, all of this is 100% true. And if that's the case, my hat's off to you, sir, for what you were able to do to your children. Now, some people don't look at him like that, but he was a little crass in some of the things that he would do, but he knew what he wanted. He had a plan, and he stuck to it. And for that, I admire him. I mean, there's no greater joy, at least for me, as a father, is to grow up and watch your kids succeed. And he absolutely did that. He had a plan, and he followed it. There was a scene in this movie where Venus had advanced. She was starting to make waves in the junior circuit, and she was interviewed by a reporter. And he asked her if she thought she would be able to beat her competition, which was, I think she was some sort of rising star. You know, she was huge, and no one had really heard of Venus at this point. And the reporter asked her point blank, "Do you really think that you can beat her?" And without a stutter, she just said, "Yeah, I do." And the reporter was so awestruck by this, and so was I. Like, I think she was, at the time, she was 13, like 13, 14, something like that. Maybe 14 years old. All the confidence in the world. And the reporter asked her, he said, "Really? You really believe that you can beat her?" She said, "Yeah." He said, how do you feel like, I mean, what makes you think that?" She was like, "I just do. I feel like I can do it." And he was so taken aback by her confidence that he started to ask her again. And her father stepped in and prevented him from any more follow-up questions, because he did not want him to ruin or to question his daughter's confidence. He protected these girls, his children, like I've never seen. I would have never thought twice about that. But when he said it, it dawned on me, the confidence that she had. You always want your children to be confident. And she was super confident. And by him reiterating this question, almost sounded like doubt, maybe putting doubt upon her. And Richard was not having that. So that stuck out to me, number one. And number two, later on down the line, they meet John Bernthal's character, who, has a facility. He kind of pushed his way onto a tennis court to make him watch Venus and Serena play. I mean, he wasn't invited. He just did what he thought he had to do. That man was hustling. He did what he had to do to get his daughters recognized. And again, I applaud him for that. He got his family moved to Florida out of a dangerous neighborhood, and he got them set up. And something else I admired about this man is he grew up poor. Okay, he came from a very poor family. His father kind of ran out on him at an early age, and he watched his father like literally run away from him. And I thought it was telling that he had been poor his entire life. His wife had been poor. His children had been poor their entire life. But he had this plan that he was sticking to. And no one at first, other than his wife and children, believed in what he was doing. But when it started to come to fruition, everybody thought they knew best. He was... people started seeing how well his daughters were doing at juniors, and they wanted a piece of it. They were like, "Oh, we can make some money off of this," and they offered him a check. They offered to pay him what they had paid previous juniors that showed potential. I think it was a contract for $3 million. They started off $3 million. My man turned it down. Like, do you understand the gravity of a thing like that? That man was poor. His children had been poor. He didn't know money. He didn't know money at all. And he was able to turn down the largest amount of money that he had ever seen in his life because he had believed in his children just that much. He knew she was going to be worth more, a lot more. So he trusted his daughter. His daughter won the next day. They came back at him with $4 million. Turned it down again. And I'm just like, I don't know. I believe in my kid, but my goodness, man. $4 million. That's deep. And they didn't bat an eye. As a matter of fact, he had his children believe in themselves so much that he allowed her to choose whether or not she wanted to turn down that money. And as a child, I don't know, if I'd have seen my parents struggling like that, I don't know if I'd have turned that down. I'd have been able to give them what they wanted finally, after all their belief in me. But she believed in herself as much as he believed in her. I only mention this because, you know, it's rare to find. There had never been a number one black female champion. Never. And he had two. It's just, for everything to fall into place. His training, their willingness to accept what it was he was telling them, their confidence in themselves, his confidence in them, a relentlessness to train and to be seen, to hustle, and to do what it took, regardless of weather. They were training in the rain. They were doing everything they could to be the best they could. At home, at school, on the tennis court. I was awestruck by this, and I think maybe I need to take some lessons. And wow, I was blown away by this. That's incredible. Just to throw this out there, so you know. So after turning down a $4 million contract, 9 months later, 9 months after her final, I think it was her final juniors championship, which she lost, by the way. Venus's first contract at age 15 was $12 million. $12 million. Her sister, Serena, who ended up being better than her, she won 23 Grand Slams. 23 Grand Slams. I mean, Venus was a 5-time Wimbledon champ. 5 times. Where does that come from? How do you do that? How do you do that? That to me is the interesting part. How do you find that? How do you cultivate that? I mean, I'd be worried as a father. Is this my dream or is this their dream? But he did it. He absolutely did it. And I cannot say enough of how awestruck I am as to how he was able to pull this off. How he was able to stick to his own plan, regardless of money, regardless of the limelight, and anything else that came his way. He had a plan and he stayed with it the entire time. So I say bravo to you, sir. I can only hope that I could be, do half of that with my son. So, wow. Yeah, so I think that about wraps it up. If you have not seen this, probably too late because I done spoiled the hell out of it. You need to do so.